Hey guys and girls, welcome back to YYC Designz Customer RC Creations. Just threw another little bit onto the fire there to keep the old wood stove heated up. It's not a bad day here in Calgary, but it is a bit of a chilly one. It is, I don't even know what it is outside, but it's chilly enough that there was frost all over the shop and frost all over some of my tools. Anyway, let's get started here, shall we? So today we are going to be working on root beer, and as you can see, I've got her engine nicely mounted here. Now last time we'd built the motor mount, and you can see it's loose. It's just held in there with a couple of screws and very loosely. I want to see what its fit is going to be like. As you can see, there's nice clearance down here, and there is great clearance underneath. So now that she fits in there nice and square, the agenda today is going to be transfer case mount. Now I want to set her up here and get her, like I say, just roughly in place where everything's going to be and where I'm thinking I want things. Then I'll be able to know how long my rear drive shaft is going to be, front drive shaft, all of that good stuff, as well as how long of a link I'm going to need in between motor and transfer case. Now normally a lot of the manufactured models, I know they sit up close. I'm going to be stepping it back, and for a connection link or a I guess you'd call it a connection drive shaft here. In the real world, we call them half shafts. So the half shaft, which connects tranny to transfer case, in this case is going to be a little longer because I don't want such a stretch to the back diff or all the way up to the front diff. I want to make them about equal. That keeps the pressure on the transfer case, again, about equal, and the angles aren't so nasty. In other words, I'm not going to be tearing U-joints out so much. So let me get some steel going here and cut out, and then we can start making this transfer mount, yeah? Or the transfer case mount, yeah? Okay, so what we got going on here is some 1/8 inch thick by 1 inch thick steel. Now these are just magnets holding these little tabs into place because basically I'm going to make a U here. What I've done is from the bottom of the frame here, I have allowed a 3/4 inch drop. Now that's going to give enough ground clearance for the transfer case to be able to clear the bottom of the motor case, yeah, because I'm going to end up putting a skid plate underneath the motor, and the transfer case will be this piece here. As you see, they're just loose right now, so the magnets are holding them in place, getting ready to be MIG welded. Now I'm just going to tack them in and get the magnets out of the way, and you'll see much better when it's done what I'm going to be doing with it. But I wanted to explain that I gave it a 3 inch drop here. It's the width of the frame, and it will get welded into place when when I finally have finished making it and have got the holes drilled out and countersunk and all that for the transfer case, yeah? So let me get this welded real quick and we'll continue on. Okay, so all the holes are in here now, and I'm really digging the placement. Now if you will notice, that is a mere about 2.5 inches back from the transmission where the transfer case will of course sit. Now this is upside down, but the transfer case will sit underneath right there. So like thus, kinda, once she's bolted in, of course, right? So that's only about, like I said, about a 2.5 inch half shaft here, and then we'll have basically a, oh, I would say about a 6 or 6.25 inch drive shaft rear, and same for front. So it's a nice even setup for as far as drive shafts go. As you can see now, I've only just very loosely had the motor screwed in here. In fact, I haven't even got all 4 screws holding it in. But this will be, once welded, I'm going to weld it along this side here, and of course on this side here to the frame. Once welded in, y'all can see now as well where I get my clearance, right? There's a nice little bit of spacing in between to give the motor lots of clearance, so the motor will never drag. First thing that's going to hit is actually going to be this transfer case skid plate. So, and that's the whole point. Then we'll put a nice smaller skid plate. Well, it won't be smaller, but it'll be of lighter metal over top of the motor, so that the motor is protected, and I will probably bolt it in or screw it in to each of the bottom of the rails here, and I will make some little tabs there to put a skid plate in, keep crap out of the drive wheel and the clutch and all of that there. Yeah, that's the whole point. As you notice, it is kind of tight tolerances here, and that's okay. If I have to, I can always cut this cross member back just a bit, and it isn't going to hurt anything. In fact, I could even section a piece out of it if need be. So let's get her welded, I guess, is the next part, and we will show you the final for this week on root beer. So as you can see, we have a beautiful little hammer transfer case from RC 4-wheel drive in place, and we have a nice little motor sitting in front of it ready to go. Just got to be finally bolted in, and that will increase our clearance. As you can see, it gives it quite a nice little chunk of clearance in there for everything to fit. But like I said, if I have to, I can always notch out this piece right here, and transfer case hides very nicely right underneath the seat of root beer. And there's a little mock-up of her for you. Here's her hood. Will fit very handily right over top of the motor. So basically, I normally, now it's just sitting there, obviously, I've got to hinge it yet. I normally do tend to like to lift the hood so that you can see what's under there. Now, I've got to talk to the owner about this one yet, or my client, as it were, and see just what he wants exposed under there. If it were me, I would leave the motor. Now, I do also do balsa wood mock motors, like I guess similar to what RC 4-wheel drive sells, only I make them out of basswood, and I carve them out to look like a real motor, like a V8 or a V6 or a 6-liter diesel, for instance, like what's going to go into Voodoo. Now, if the client wants that, I can also do that. The problem is, on this truck, there isn't going to be a whole lot of room because the engine side panels are very close, yeah? So what I usually recommend on these, and I think is a really cool setup, is to just leave the electric motor exposed, and that way you can always show off exactly what you're running for power in your crawler, right? I mean, everybody knows it's an RC. Yes, it's a replica, but I think it's cool. sometimes to see what guys are running for motors, whether they're running brushed or brushless, and to see what they're running for a gearbox and a transfer case and all that. I think it's cool to see it. I think a lot of guys want to see it. All this business of hide the motor, it's an RC. Let's show the motor. Show guys what kind of setup we got going on underneath. You know, I think it's kind of groovy. That's just me. And okay, I can dig it if y'all can't, or if y'all don't like that, I can dig that too. But sometimes I think it's cool to show off what we got going on underneath some of these rigs. Yeah, just my opinion. So since there are a lot of new friends here joining me on the channel, I really want to let you know as well. Now, yes, these are all metal. Do I come in at a decent weight? The answer to that is a resounding yes. Root beer here, maybe by the time she's all done, maybe breaks 10 pounds. She might be 10.5 pounds when she's done. And when she is done, I will give you a full measurement on her. But seriously, I build them out of such light tin that these things don't come in at real huge weight. And the other thing is, my rigs, you don't have to put all this crap into your diffs and into your wheels to try and get weight out of your vehicle to try and make the tires work properly. The weight is right here in the entire vehicle. That's the whole point. You don't have to go spending money on all this crap to add weight to your front rims to keep them digging and keep them working properly. The weight is in the vehicle. I hear it time and time again. Oh, let's lighten up the vehicle. Well, as long as you have your weight evenly distributed, okay, so that you haven't got a real ass end heavy rig or a real nose end heavy rig, that's the goal. Keep it nicely balanced, nicely distributed across the entire vehicle. Now, in this particular case, I'm looking at using a nice small little battery pack that will fit underneath this seat. So I know they're out there. I've seen them. Okay, they're at all our shops. Okay, you've got a total of 5.25 inches in length to be able to hide a battery pack under there. Okay, and the cool thing is you got a nice, really super light set of seats that are going to hide it all for you, right? And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be groovy. Guys are going to like it, right? So now you got the whole box you can use, or if you want, you can put a false floor into the box and you can hide bigger batteries under there, okay? Now, this client tends to want to run 3S lipos, okay? And I know I can get a 3S lipo pack to fit under the seat there and to work. Absolute worst case scenario is it will run lengthwise along the vehicle, okay? But as long as the weight is balanced and I don't have to preload shocks, because I'm not a fan of preloading the shocks to get things to ride nice and level and proper and handle well. I would rather it just be balanced properly in the build process rather than have to screw around with the shocks, okay? I like to run all 4 shocks the same. That said, though, the worst case scenario is we put a false floor in the box and put the battery back there, and again, it will even out the weight distribution of the vehicle. Most of the weight, though, I like to keep right here in the center so it's all even, it's down low. Very little risk of rolling the vehicle all the time on these slight hills. Now, I'm not going to pick on anybody because I do not badmouth anybody on my channel, but we all know there's RCs out there that are plastic and oh, they're super light and oh, they've got all this stuff in the wheels to make their tires work properly and keep their diffs on the ground, and you put them on a 30-degree slope and they're rolling like crazy going down the hill, right? They're just rolling like an avalanche. Now, these don't. These are balanced. They're set. You can get them on better than a 30-degree slope, I'll tell you, before this one's going to roll. Now, that all depends, of course, on how high you lift the suspension. I mean, if you go crazy, yeah, okay, higher you go, the more risk of rolling. Anyway, end of my rant, okay? Here's root beer, and it's a shorter video this week, guys. This is my last really busy week in my personal life, and we'll be getting back to more in-depth, little longer videos on the projects here in this coming week. Hopefully we just get back to normal, and I hope you enjoyed it. Here's the transfer case on root beer. Y'all have a great work week, guys and gals. Don't work too hard, and remember, if you like the video, please like and subscribe if you haven't, and share it with your friends. Take care. Bye-bye.